Stephen A., what do you feel about the process?
Oh, you know I've hated it for years.
Correct. So this is their chance to actually get over the hump, make the conference finals, push the Boston Celtics, and also the Nets, who you've talked about, and you guys, I agree. Health is going to be a big-time factor, but this is a great chance for Joel Embiid to lead that team.
Well, let's focus in on them a second here, because if you were all looking up on the screen and everyone at home saw it, Vegas doesn't buy the Sixers. Vegas thinks it's a three-team race and then a bit of a drop-off, and Philly is not one of those three.
Let me tell you why that is. But first, before I say anything about that, let me say this from the Stevens A list when I'm doing NFL on First Take. It's fluid. You got to do this. It's fluid. It's fluid, okay? That's what we do. Hold on to that. Here's why Vegas has trepidation about the Philadelphia 76ers, because they ain't sold on James Harden. This is called what it is. Nobody is worried about
Harden more than Embiid.
I'm gonna absolutely. Okay. Everybody knows Embiid, his person, not just his game, but his personality speaks to his willingness to rise to the occasion. He rose to the occasion when Ben Simmons was having his issues. He rose to the occasion last year when James Harden wasn't himself as well. I think him, and there's a lack of appreciation still for the young greatness of Tyrese Maxey.
No doubt.
There's no question about it. He is the second best player on the Philadelphia 76ers. That's not throwing any shade on James Harden whatsoever. It's just that when they look at James, it's a roller coaster. You're wondering when he's going. You know what he can do. You know what he has done at times in the past, but you also what he's done. You also know what he's done on a negative level, and there's trepidation about him.
I think there's still some trepidation, not from me. Right. What about Embiid? Because he's been close twice. He's been the runner-up in MVP. He's had some moments that weren't great in the postseason, so has Harden. But here's the one thing about Harden, Stephen A. He has shown a willingness to morph his game to what they need, and I think that's going to be essential for the 76ers.
I mean, we just talking about Vegas.
And in the playoffs.
Yeah, we don't believe in Harden. We're just talking about Vegas.
The Cavs get Rubio back. I think they're just a year away. I think they need another player on the wing. I think the Nets need another front court player. We talked about the physicality that they're lacking. I agree with both of you. This is a golden opportunity for the Sixers to at least get to the conference final.
And then, Jalen, let's circle back now to the team we have for you today. Again, no Giannis today for the Bucks, and we understand they've been without, I think it's 15 consecutive or 16 consecutive games that Chris Middleton has missed. However, we have seen this team as a championship pedigree when they are together. They took Boston to 7 tough games last year without Chris Middleton. They won the championship with him the year before. If they are whole by the end of the season, does Milwaukee vault right up there next to Boston?
They have to be in the conversation because of Giannis, Drew Holiday, and we've seen them do it. But the problem has been Middleton's health.
Yes.
And in the 7 games that he's played, 11 points, 33% field goal. He just hasn't had a good season, Greeny, and he hasn't been consistently enough in the lineup to seem like they can rely on him for this long run that they're going to need in the regular season and the postseason.
Well, there's a couple of things I want to say. Number one, Giannis, as phenomenal and great as he is, what we've learned from the Boston Celtics, it's not just their defensive prowess. It's not just their athleticism, their togetherness, etc. They actually can hit perimeter shots. That's not to say Milwaukee can't, but you can find yourself in a situation where you look into Giannis to save the day, especially with Middleton out. And I don't know if he can do that once they got a key on him, and they might back off of him and show him force him to shoot perimeter shots. So Boston's got to be in the mix. Brooklyn, obviously, you need some girth on your front line, but because of their shot-making ability, we can't dismiss them. And with the Miami Heat, this is the only thing that I want to say. They ranked 30th in the league in scoring. They ranked 25th in three-point percentage of shooting. I'm sorry. That's why you're going to be on the outside looking in come NBA Finals. You can't do that and go to the Finals. I just don't believe it.
Let's go back to Milwaukee for a second. Sure. They are fascinating. I don't trust the teams where you say, if so-and-so gets healthy by. How many years are we going to do this? Right? You don't walk in off the street after what? The end of February and just transform yourself and therefore your team. So this Middleton thing, Jalen has a great point about where he is in terms of his contribution and consistency of it. It's absent. So how long are we going to go? What does he have? A month left maybe? We got to see the real Middleton, the championship team Middleton, Greeny, before I'm counting on Milwaukee.
And you guys know, you guys been around this game forever. In the playoffs, your stars have to be bigger than the X's and O's. So I look at these teams and say, who has two guys that could get you 30 in the game? The Sixers have 3 guys that could do that. The Nets have 2 guys that could do that.
Boston.
That's why and then now we're still trying to figure that out with the Cavs. That's why I think they're a year away. So that's why this is a legit chance for the Sixers.
So what you're saying is that Boston can do it as well, and Milwaukee does not.
Correct. The Boston Celtics are on a tier of their own. To me, they're the best team in basketball. But the Sixers and the Nets, these two teams have not met expectations. Right. This is a golden opportunity for them to advance and at least make it to the conference.
Final word.
Listen, I got interviewed by a radio station in Philadelphia yesterday, and they had questions about Doc Rivers. I don't. We don't.
What were their questions?
Their questions were, again, if you're Doc Rivers, can you reach James Harden for what level of a consistency that you might need out of him? That's a valid question because, again, I would remind everybody, and this is throwing no shade again on James Harden, but the fact of the matter is he was living a very posh life in Houston. You had a coach of Mike D'Antoni. You got coaches that were analyzing. Y'all know this. You showing clips, you showing footage, negative plays that may have transpired, mistakes that you have made, et cetera, et cetera. Do you know when James Harden was in Houston, they didn't show those things? To him. They would not show him.
And it didn't work either, did it?
And it didn't work. So what I'm saying is that ain't going to happen with Doc Rivers.
I trust Doc's method, and
so do I.
I trust it. And here's the thing, Stephen A. James Harden is at the point now of his career, ringless, where the motivation has to come from within.
That's right.
I mean, how many coaches out of the 30 coaches would
it ain't going to be his fault. It ain't going to be Doc Rivers' fault. No. But the bottom line is Philly cannot go where we think they're going to go without him.
Now we're less than a month from the NBA's trade deadline, and there is a player I know that a lot of teams, maybe the two that we're seeing today in particular, have their eye on.
Yeah, absolutely. Jae Crowder in Phoenix, who has been away from the Suns all season long, despite their injuries and the obvious need to have him. He did not like the idea of coming off the bench this season and has stayed separated from the Suns. But both Milwaukee and Miami are among a number of teams, still tracking a possible deal with Phoenix. And I think you look at Milwaukee in particular, they brought in P.J. Tucker 2 years ago in a trade that helped them win a title. Jae Crowder, no player in the last 3 years has played more playoff games than Jae Crowder on the finals run with Miami in the bubble than the last 2 seasons in Phoenix. And certainly he's the kind of tough physical forward that really fits the identity of both the Bucks and Miami.